welcome back to FPL Chat Down Under. I'm joined as always by my old mate and fantasy legend Alex. How are you doing?
Good, mate. It's good to be in a week finally where the Premier League's back. We've got FPL in full swing. I think everyone's panicking just before the deadline, changing their teams a million times. Wouldn't rather a better time.
Well, while we're in the waiting room, I did a last minute change in my team as well. So I am definitely living by that code. I can see the new United shirt as well you've got going.
Yeah, man. It's actually pretty fresh. I wasn't sure what to expect. I saw it and I was like, I don't know what this is going to be like. I might as well get it. Oh man, it's awesome. And wouldn't be a new Man United top without Manchester United's newest signing in Jadon Sancho on the back. So living a good life.
All in. You've gone all in. There's been a few, hasn't there? I suppose before we start with the first week, there's been a few big transfers, hasn't there? We've got Messi. He's gone to Paris. And I'd imagine for FPL, that probably means Kane is in pole position now, isn't it, to sign with City?
It is, and I think given all the recent news around Kane and the drama that seems to be unfolding a little bit at Tottenham, it seems more and more likely. So I think it's still a bit of a watch this space movement, but I think it's more leaning towards City than anything.
Could be huge. I mean, he scored a lot of points last year, and you'd say Man City is going to get even better service, isn't he, down there? So interesting to see if you've got him in your teams or not. So we start on Saturday with Brentford Arsenal, which is an interesting one. And we've taken, you're doing the home teams, I'm doing the away teams. We've taken one guy we're going to be watching closely who we think go off. So tell me your Brentford, the new guys. Who takes your fancy there?
Yeah, we've got the new guys on the block, and I think they're going to be a team that are going to surprise a lot of people. They're a very attacking team. They scored the highest amount of goals in the championship last season, and my player to watch is Ivan Toney for that reason. He's the talisman. He's had 3 goals and 1 assist in these preseason games. There was a little doubt about him having an injury cloud. I wasn't sure they weren't sure if he was going to start in game week 1, but it looks like he is going to start in game week 1. As I said before, he's the talisman. He's the main man. 31 goals and 10 assists last season. I mean, I know it's in the championship, but that's some unbelievable stats. And I think all season, I think there was a stat I saw that he missed 10 big chances all season long. And you think the championship, they play 40 plus games each season, plus the playoff games as well. That's just unbelievable. So it shows that he's a great finisher, and he's got all the talent in the world. And if Brentford get off to a hot start and play that real attacking football that I'm expecting them to, I think Ivan Toney's gonna be at the forefront of it.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. I mean, their coach has come out as well and said that they are going to be playing the same way. They haven't changed. It's going to be the same mantra of go hard. They've used Leeds as an example, who just stuck to their model and backed it in. So you expect, especially with the preseason form, 3 goals, 1 assist, it's decent return. It shows that everything is going to go through him. And I think he's got the game as well to play in the Premier League, a bit like the Bamford effect last year.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that's a lot of people's picking of Toney. They're kind of hoping he is going to be that Bamford from last year. And I personally feel, watching his game, I feel that he can be a Bamford, if not can be even better, especially if they get off to a good start. So I think Ivan Toney is definitely a player a lot of people are going to be watching.
Oh, no, I'm with you 100%. I mean, the guy I went for might be a surprise, but I think he presents great value at 5.5 as well, and that is Smith Rowe at Arsenal. I know you could probably argue you've got your Saka there, you've got Pepe as well, but I just think this guy's going to go under the radar. 7.6% of people have got him as well in the squad at the moment, but he's highly rated at Arsenal, and I think he's going to get the game time. He's played nearly all the preseason games. He's got the goal in that as well. He's really been a staple there. And we know Arteta's a big fan. I think he presents a bit of value, particularly with their opening fixtures. You've got your Brentford, and then you've got Norwich, and then they've got 2 tough fixtures. But at the price, I think he's someone that you can bring out for Brentford and Norwich and rest on him and be a wait and see. He's a good bench option as well.
Yeah, I think at 5.5, it's super hard to find, quality midfielders at 5.5 that could, provide a lot of statistics. And I think Smith Rowe, he seems pretty nailed on at the number 10 at Arsenal. So If a lot of stuff goes through him, he could be very good for goal and assist. He's got that attacking potential there, and at 5.5, if you need a few funds to ease up some other positions, Smith Rowe could definitely be the way to go.
That's the thought process. I have to say he's on the precipice of he's been in and out of my team, but I do think, like you say, that value, you're always looking at a good bench option who can contribute as well, because it's a long season, isn't it? It's a very long season. And if you've got a guy there at 5.5 who you can keep on the bench and not have to use a wild card or use a transfer, it presents really great value as well, long-term wise.
Yeah, no, I think as I like to say, as through my times of playing FPL, it's not a sprint, it's a marathon.
Yeah, and I think he's one of them guys that I don't mind leaning on. I don't mind. I think, like you say, he's probably going to pop up with a cheeky assist, isn't he, every now and then as well. So could be a good little value there, I think.
Yeah, no, I'm with you there for sure.
And then we've got the game everyone is wanting to say. What a opening day fixture as well. United versus Leeds United. It's the rivalry. It's a game steeped in history. And you've got the luxury of picking a home team and a team that you know very well. So who you've picked here that's got your eye?
I do, and my eye is on Luke Shaw. He's obviously a 5.5 defender. He's, I think, the most owned player in FPL this season at the moment, and for good reason. We saw exactly what he can do in the Euros. He bursts down that left back, down that left flank. He's going to be always there for attacking returns, whether that's an assist or a goal. He loves beaming in crosses. He loves getting in great positions. He's already had an assist in the one game that he's come back in against Everton. So, that one game that he's come back for, he's shown that he's likely going to be ready for game week 1. And Manchester United, there's some big talks about them this season. There's some big, they're a championship hopeful this year, and they're going to be looking for number 21. And I think Luke Shaw down at left back is going to be a big part of that. And if he can, get back to anything that he was in the Euros and consistently do that for Manchester United, I think we're going to get an absolute bargain at 5.5. So I'm very keen to see what Luke Shaw is going to be all about, especially in game week 1. I think he's going to come out pretty firing.
Oh, I'm with you. And especially I think he's going to have an effect with Sancho as well, because that gives all their wide position players that habit of cutting inside. So it's creating that space for the overlap. So I think Luke Shaw, I think he's nailed. I would say he should be nailed on at his price. And if you take that against his output, and he's thriving under Solskjaer, isn't he? He's absolutely thriving under it. So he's only going to get better. I think he's underpriced. Because you see TAA, he's in pretty much everyone's team. He's a staple. He's got the same impact, really, minus the set pieces.
Yeah, no, he does. And like for a Manchester United defender, we think Manchester United actually weren't too bad defensively last year. They were one of the top 5 defensive teams in the league last season. And Solskjaer has talked about this year as well. Obviously, they're going to be very strong defensively, but he's talked about wanting to be even more attacking this year. And Luke Shaw plays a pretty big part of that at left back. So he's definitely one to watch. And I think you'd be crazy not to own him early on in the season.
Yeah, well, no, I couldn't agree more. I think the logic's there, and there's a reason he's one of the most picked fantasy players, isn't there? I mean, there's always a reason. You should never always go with everyone, but I think it's so high, it's nailed on. So I can't agree with you more, and particularly their fixtures as well. He's got a lot of chance, hasn't he? A lot of chance that you expect him to really get some numbers on the board early.
Yep, absolutely.
Well, I've stuck to my realm of cheap midfielders in this one. And for Leeds United, I'm looking at Jack Harrison. I'm a huge fan. He's made his transfer there now permanent. He's played 2 games in pre-season, 1 assist. But I think he's one of the guys, I know everyone's on the Rafinha train. I think he's the forgotten one. You talked about him last show as well. You're a big fan, and I can't agree with you more. I think 6 million as well. It presents huge value. 5.4% of people have got him in their team as well, so it's a point of difference. And we know, really, most people who play this will have 6 players that everyone has. And it's them ones that you've just taken the punt on. And if you're clever and you look at the fixtures, you can kind of get away with it. And I just think Jack Harrison is a guy that I think if Leeds are going to fire, he's only going to get better.
Oh, absolutely. And we look at last year. He had, what was it, 8 goals and 10 assists. That's 10 assists is an unbelievable feat, and it's not something that a lot of players can do. And that he's actually one of the top assisters throughout the top 10 leagues in Europe, which is absolutely insane. So it shows that a lot of Leeds' play does go through Harrison down on that wing, and he started off the season really well last year against Liverpool, where he kicked a goal. So it could very well happen here against Manchester United. And no, he's shown that he's a definite pick, especially in the 6.0 price range, where as you said, a lot of people are going for Rafinha, but Harrison could be that one that could come out and actually overtake Rafinha.
Yeah, I think he's one that's just flown under the radar as well. I think he's just one of them players that I just think I like the points of difference, and I think the risk is outweighed by just logic with Harrison. Like you say, everything goes through him down that channel. So plenty of opportunity if they fire. You've got Rodrigo in there as well. So you've really maximised his assists as well, because he's now got 2 quality strikers to really feed as well. So I think he just presents great value. I know everyone's on the Kilch train as well. Everyone's on him, but I just think he's staring you in the face at 6 million. Staring it. So that was my pick. And then we move on to we go from a high game to one that probably doesn't tickle many people's fancies. Burnley Brighton. Who have you got here at Burnley?
Well, I think if there's one thing we've learned over the years with Burnley, it's that their strength lies in their defence. So wherever you want to pick in defence is up to you. But for me, my eyes on Charlie Taylor from Burnley. He's already had 4 clean sheets in pre-season, but he's just that sort of guy, like Luke Shaw, albeit Luke Shaw plays for obviously a team with much more attacking threat. But Charlie Taylor is very much a similar player. He beams down that left flank. He loves whipping in crosses left, right, and centre. He's the player who takes the most crosses at Burnley. And I think he's only a 4.5 mil defender as well. And I think Burnley have been known over the years for their ability to get a clean sheet. They weren't so great at it last season, but you think about the season before, they were absolutely amazing at it. And we think about the clean sheet points and the assist potential. I think Charlie Taylor's definitely one. If you're keen on a Burnley defender, I think he's the one to look out for. So Charlie Taylor's one I'm going to be watching very early on, especially if Burnley start getting a good run of clean sheets.
No, I couldn't agree with you anymore. And I think, when you look at both Brighton and Burnley, both of their strengths is in their back half of the ground, isn't it? It's where their highest scorers come from. And Taylor, he's definitely going to have them options for assists. You'd say that the way Sean plays with Burnley as well, he likes them to be rigid at the back, very disciplined. So you've always got them bonus point potentials as well from him for keeping that clean sheet. So I think he's a no-brainer. I think if you are going Burnley, he's someone, and he potentially is someone looking ahead that maybe some of the top clubs look for as well in the transfer window. We know that the British rule comes in, the EU rule goes next year. So I'd expect to see in January, particularly as well, a lot of these young British-born players may change hands because it's a safe option for them before the new work permit rules hit. So definitely someone I think as well with the price. It's not very expensive as well, isn't it? It's someone that you can probably afford to have on your pine as well and bring him out when the fixtures aid what he's doing. So, no, I agree with that. I think it's a great shout.
Yeah, no, he's one I've actually had in a few of my drafts, but I mean, just given the start and the potential in defense as well, I've sort of steered away from it towards the end. But he is someone I've definitely thought about. So, if Burnley do get on a good run of clean fixtures, like I said, he could definitely be one to go for.
No, I'm with you. And I think Brighton, I had them. I think it's obvious who I'm going to pick. I've gone with Sanchez, the goalkeeper. He's in over 25% of people's teams. I think he's a no-brainer. 66 saves last year. He's already had 6 in pre-season, one of them being a clean sheet. I just think if you're picking a Brighton player, I think he's a no-brainer. I think his saves just make him a lock to go in, I think, as well. And looking at Brighton, he's going to have to save a lot, isn't he? And he's good at it, which is more important. And that's a deadly combination when we're looking at fantasy goalkeepers. Is it the opportunity to save, and are they good at it? And he does keep a lot of clean sheets as well. I think he's locked in. I'm shocked he's not in 100% of teams, because I think Price with output is huge.
I mean, we even spoke about that, on our last show. 4.5 mil goalkeepers, they're always not the easiest to come by, and especially with someone, who's at Brighton, who defensively aren't too bad at all. I think it's a no-brainer. It's just way too hard to go past him.
I'm with you. I mean, I know everyone's gone the Martinez train. He's the highest selected. But I just think Brighton are very tough to score against, really tough. So I think he's locked in. And like we say, Price has got to come into it sometimes. And you're saving $1 million for someone, I think, with very similar numbers and potential to get the same numbers as well. So now that's my guy from Brighton. And 26% of people are in the same boat. So a lot of us are wrong if we're wrong.
Yeah, no, there's definitely potential there. That's for sure.
And then we go to a game that I think is really intriguing, because we're going to see Tuchel in his first full year versus return of Arsenal legend and Premier League legend Patrick Vieira's Palace. And that's going to be interesting to see. I think Palace are an exciting thing to see, because Vieira plays a total different game style to Hodgson. So you're really going to see that. I think there's no form to go on with Palace. So who did you pick for Chelsea? Who's the guy who's caught your eye?
I think for Chelsea, the one I'm looking at is Kai Havertz. He's at that price range where it can get a bit tricky. He's at 8.5, but I think if you're looking on preseason form, he's actually not too bad. So if we look at his preseason, he's had the one goal. He just had an assist in Chelsea's most recent Super Cup win. But then if you look at his Euros form with Germany, he was actually quite good. He got into really good attacking positions. Probably didn't get the returns that he was hoping for, but he looked a threat. He looked someone who could be bound for a big 2021-2022 season. And under Tuchel, we saw that he did pick it up a bit last season. So I think he's definitely one to look out for. And if he starts the season really well, obviously Chelsea, if we're looking at it from a difficulty standpoint from their fixtures, it's not the greatest, but, we know Chelsea are good enough to beat anyone. Doesn't matter who it is. And Kai Havertz could play a pretty big part in that, whether that's goals or assisting. So I think he's definitely one I'm going to be keeping an eye out for, because if he starts firing too, I don't think 8.5 is at a price range where, it's killer expensive and someone you can definitely move to. So, I've got Havertz on my eye.
No, I agree. I think Havertz as well. He's kind of like Luke Shaw in the avenue that a new coach really brought out the best parts of his game. So we know with Lampard, he was kind of a bit disappointing, wasn't he? He wasn't really reaching the heights. But like you say, new coach, he's really started to get the best out of him. He seems to be getting in the right positions. More importantly, enjoying the style of play. And I think as well, Lukaku hasn't signed yet, but it seems to be the worst kept secret in professional sport at the moment. Gives him another dynamic, doesn't it, to increase them assists, because Lukaku loves playing off players like Havertz, loves the kind of service that Havertz does. And he loves that through ball, which is Romelu's kind of bread and butter, isn't it? So again, another guy that could benefit from the transfer window.
Absolutely. So yeah, as I said, keep an eye on Havertz, because he could definitely be one that breaks through and has a pretty big season.
No, I agree. And it seems to be a common trend, finding budget midfielders. Bearing in mind, Vieira loves this style of player. He loves that Thierry Henry kind of drift out, cut back inside type player. I think Wilfried Zaha for 7 million, bearing in mind his preseason form, has been sensational. 4 goals. He's been banging them in, really embracing what Vieira's game style is. And he scored 11 goals last year. So think in 3 preseason games, he's almost usurped that, albeit against not a strong opposition. He looks in form. 7% of people own him as well. At 7 million, I think he's a no-brainer because I think he's going to score a large percentage of Palace's goals. I think he's going to be the main man, and I think he's going to play a lot more forward. So I think he's value.
I think he definitely is too. Like a lot of Crystal Palace's stuff definitely does go through Zaha. And the interesting thing is, and a trend I notice, I never pick him for some reason. There's got to come one time where I do, but he always starts off seasons really really well. He always pops up either for a goal or an assist very early on in the season, and he goes on a big stretch very early on where he gets those returns. He tends to go quiet a bit in the middle towards the end, but he gets off to cracking starts more times than not. And I think if you want to jump the gun and get a good start on your FPL season, Zaha is definitely a name to look out for, especially at 7.0 in midfield. He, as I said, tends to get off to good starts and he's always a threat. So, yeah, no, I like that pick.
He's one of them guys as well I've looked at who was discussed to leave Palace this year. And that kind of has died very quickly with the advent of Vieira there. And that kind of says to me, reading between the lines, he's settled, he enjoys the vision, he obviously feels really valued as well. So a happy Zaha, I think, is dangerous for the EPL, and I think he could go off. I just think he's primed to go off. It's now or never, really, for Zaha to really reach that potential. And he's a guy that I just feel could break out this year as well, really cement his position as one of the better players in the competition.
Absolutely, absolutely. No, I'm all for that pick, Dan. I like that a lot.
Well, I love a budget midfielder. It seems to appear quite a bit in this show, so there's a spoiler. We then go to Everton, Southampton, and these are two teams that probably, I think, get overlooked in FPL. You don't often see them, but who have you picked out for Everton that really stands out to you that is nailed on as a guy that you'll be watching with intent?
I think the one that's pretty nailed on for Everton is Luca Dina at left back at you know, and another one like Luke Shaw at 5.5. Now Everton's had some issues defensively, you know, over the years, especially last year. They were so good attacking, but they were just as poor defensively. I think with Rafa Benitez coming in, I think there's a lot of hope that and a lot of potential that their defensive side of it is going to get much better. And I think Luca Dina, he, you know, he's that guy, just like Luke Shaw that we spoke about, loves beaming down that left flank, whips in crosses, he takes set pieces. He's always good for, you know, a potential assist. You know, and under Benitez, if they can pick up the defensive side of it, they have a really good run of fixtures early on, and there's a lot of clean sheet potential there. And I think he absolutely has the potential to move on and go well from a decent Euros with France. So no, he's definitely one that I'm going to be looking at. He's always going to be nailed on, you would think, and yeah, that's my pick to look out for.
Oh, I think he's valued, like you say as well. I think he's probably undervalued. I think in the price, I would say you could probably argue he's worth the 0.5 more because of what he does. And I think when you look at Rafa Benitez sides as well, he looks to these players to create that natural width as well. So he's going to be the kind of player that is really going to be in the furnace. I love that pick, and I think he should be in a lot of people's teams. He's very underrated as a footballer, I think, as well.
Oh, he absolutely is. And, you know, I feel like I find myself almost since he's signed with Everton, basically every season I have Luca Dina in my team. I love watching the guy. He's a good footballer. And there's always potential there for something good to happen. So, yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Luca Dean.
Yeah, well, I mean, I might surprise a few people with this. And even when I wrote the preview for this, I was surprised I was writing this bloke's name in. So that's how surprised I was. I've gone 6 million and a staggering 0.3% of people have him in his team. And I am actually debating getting him in my team. Theo Walcott. Now, people might go, you've lost it here. And I might have done, but 2 goals, 1 assist. He literally, in the preseason games as well, it looks like he's starting. It looks like they are really putting some faith in him. And it seems to be they're playing him forward, which is my issue with this. He's a midfielder listed at the moment, but if he was a forward, he would be nailed on in the team. Just putting that out there, he would be nailed on. But I think he's I think it's great value for Southampton because they've lost some names. There's some players have gone out the door, and I think Theo is going to be the man that they look to really keep them going and really sew up that hole that Danny Ings has created. We know they've signed Adam Armstrong, but I think Walcott's still going to get game time. I think he's going to be the man.
I think he absolutely will, and you know we know a name. We know the name Theo Walcott from many years when he was at Arsenal and so on and so forth. And when he was at Arsenal, and even when he was at Everton before he moved to Southampton, he's just always an attacking threat. And I remember one FPL season, I can't remember the exact year, but he was off the chain while he was at Arsenal, and he showed what he's all about. So I don't think he's lost that at all. And obviously, as you said, Southampton have lost a couple players, especially up front this off season. So Theo Walcott. If Southampton are going to get up and firing, I think Theo Walcott's the man to get it up and firing for them. So I like that pick too, Dan.
No, I'm confident in Theo. I know I've gone blast from the past. I mean, it would have been a great pick 2011 Premier League season. 2021, probably you might be asking questions, but I just think 6 million. I just think I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, what is out there for 6 million? That's a point of difference, and less than 1% in your team. The fixtures aren't so bad as well. The first 4 weeks, there's worse out there. I'd imagine Adam Armstrong's going to be fed game time as well, really slowly. So I think he might be the kind of guy that could get you off to a banging start before anyone jumps on the train. So
it's all about trying to find those diamonds in the rough, especially in a game like FPL. And Theo Walcott is definitely a name that could potentially be a diamond in the rough. I think as you said, 0.3% own him. So I think if he's another one, if he catches fire early, you're already in front of everyone.
Let's hope. If anyone backs me in on that one, I am on the precipice of pressing the button and getting him in the team. I'm selling him to myself, which is deadly. So I'm going to be definitely watching that game with a keen eye on it. And hopefully he'll be in my team and goes off. Hopefully I don't not bite the bullet and he scores 2 goals. And I'm like, why didn't I do it? So the next game is a really intriguing fixture. We've got Leicester, who are probably one of the more fun sides to watch, against Wolves, who are kind of a bit of an unknown this year. And these are 2 teams that you see a lot of people put faith in fantasy as well. So might not have the success, but these are 2 teams that you see in a lot of fantasy sides year on year. Who did you pick for Leicester?
Well, for this matchup, if there's one thing I've known, and I've watched a few Leicester and Wolves games in recent years, if there's one thing I've known from this matchup, it tends to provide goals and a lot of goals too. And I think the name that's striking out to me, even though he's not in my team, but Harvey Barnes. I watched a bit of him in the Community Shield, and he just looks such a threat off the wing. He's had a goal, he's had an assist during this preseason, and if I think his biggest worry, or the biggest worry with him, has been injuries. He's been a bit prone to injuries. He was injured for a little bit last year, but when he's out there on the pitch, he really provides a lot for Leicester. And Leicester, as you said, are one of the more fun and attacking teams to watch. With the likes of Vardy and Iheanacho and Maddison and Ayoze Perez and Tielemans and so on and so forth. So they're a really fun team, and Harvey Barnes could definitely be the guy that is the goal and assist threat that we've been looking for if we want to get into Leicester's attack. So I'm going to be keeping a very close eye on Harvey Barnes and seeing what he produces very early on.
He's definitely one of them guys that really gives me Mahrez vibes for Leicester. He kind of goes under the radar, and it's written all over his game that he is an absolute jet of a footballer. Watching the Community Shield like you, I really did feel about Mahrez about him. He has that Mahrez ability of just changing the game open, does the simple things well as well. Definitely a price factor as well for Barnes is insane as well, I think. Like for the price.
I mean, he's only 7.0, so he's not at a cheap price point, but he's not at a real expensive price point either. He's at a pretty decent value pick. So he's definitely a name that could start the season very well. And I think if he does, I think a lot of people are going to be jumping on him pretty quickly, knowing that he's only 7.0.
Oh, no, I couldn't agree more. I think he's an absolute. But I think 7 million's bargain basement for his return. I think there's players more priced than him that I guarantee he'll finish above in points. So three
Well,
million, really.
he had the 9 goals and 4 assists last season, and that was in, I think it was 28 games. So he missed 10 games last season. So imagine what he could have done in those other 10 games as well. So yeah, no, he's definitely a name to watch.
No, I'm with you. He's a phenomenal footballer and someone that I highly rate. And precipice maybe of international football as well. I think that'll dangle over there as well. I think international football, I think he'll put himself in the shop window there. So very good footballer. No, I agree with you. The guy I went for with Wolves, and I think like you say, Wolves have got a lot of talent as well. You look at Leicester, they've got a lot of talent. It's kind of hard to pick one, but I was going through their numbers and this guy stood out. Nelson Semedo, 5 million, I think is about par for the course for a defender. But what is a selling point for me is 1.8% of people own him. And he's played 3 preseason games, 2 assists already. He is really I think he's going to break out this year. I think he's highly rated. He's highly rated. He's got a big reputation coming from Barca as well. I think another year in the Premier League, I think this guy's going to break out. I think he's going to break out, and I think he's great value at 5 million.
Well, he had a decent Euros with Portugal as well. As we know, he's Portugal's right back. So yeah, no, there's always attacking potential there. You know, he's got the prototype, you know, right back that you want. He's quick, he's skillful, he's got an eye for an assist, he's got an eye for a lot of different things. And I think at 5.0, you know, obviously Wolves' first 3 fixtures aren't fantastic, but from game week 4 for the next, you know, 6 weeks or so, they have a splendid, you know, run of fixtures, and he could definitely be a player if you want attacking returns from Wolves. He's probably going to be the player in the back line to get it. So, you know, I think that's a great pick.
Yeah, well, I mean, I was looking earlier, and someone and I was watching a YouTube video, and the guy said it was 48% of people that owned White at Arsenal actually have him on the pine. So if you've got 0.5 million knocking around, I mean, potentially there's a guy here that you could be looking at and thinking, this gives me options as well. Like, it really gives me options because I don't really trust Arsenal's defense. But the return that this guy can give you, where Ben White can't, I think is huge for 0.5 as well. For 0.5 million, I've just got a feeling 1.8% of people owning him. There's a reason people have overlooked him, but I think there's a reason that people have made a mistake as well. I'm a big fan of him. I think he's a phenomenal footballer, a phenomenal talent. Like you say, the modern day right back, they're so big nowadays.
Absolutely. So yeah, no, big pick from you, Dan. I'm liking that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, let's hope it goes well. Let's hope it goes well because we'll readjust this next week and see how they went. And he might be one of them guys that will be like, I can't believe I said that. But we got to another game as well. This is an intriguing fixture, I thought. Watford Villa. There's a bit of scoring potential here in both sides, and both the forward and the defensive half as well. You could argue because this has got like 0-0 written all over it or a goal fest. So who've you gone with here for Watford?
I think the one that I'm looking out for most at Watford is Myla Sarr. Now this is a guy that has a lot of talent, and you know, as I spoke about in the previous episode, he started off last season's championship really slow, but once their new coach come in and he changed the formation to a 4-3-3, we saw the best out of Ismaila Sarr, and I think in the last few games he had 10 goals and 3 assists. So it shows that, you know, this move and newfound freedom that he's obviously got, he's got potential to provide some attacking returns. You know, he's had the 1 goal and the 1 assist in his most recent preseason game after not really providing too much earlier on. But he's one of the only guys in the Watford team who has had previous Premier League experience. You know, we all remember what he did against Liverpool when he kicked those 2 goals, and they were 2 brilliant goals at that, mind you. So we've all remember what Ismail Assar's about, and if he can get to anything back like that and start off the season pretty well, Watford's fixtures aren't terrible to start the season. So I think at 6 million, he could definitely be, like Jack Harrison, the next best bargain pick.
Well, we know I love a bargain midfielder, and I agree with you. I think he's got that pace coming out wide as well, stretches teams. You see it with Traore at Wolves as well. Late in the game, them kind of pace players, and he's got good endurance, really do stretch teams. And he's the kind of player that could be like 2-0 down Watford, and he pops up and scores a late goal against the run of play just because of that frightening pace. So the value there for the price, I agree with you. I think he's a no-brainer. If I'm going to Watford player, I think he's nailed on.
Yeah, absolutely. No, and that was my thinking. And he was in my team a couple of weeks ago. I think I've shied away from that a bit over the last couple of weeks, but if he gets off to a good starter, he'll find his way quickly back into my team. That's for sure.
Oh, definitely. No, I agree with you. I mean, the forward at Villa, I think it's probably the most boringest guy I've got here. Danny Ings, 8 million. He's shot up as well in people's teams, 30.6% now owning. Last week he was only 26%. So that transfer, people are throwing faith in him. 1 goal already as well for his new side in the preseason. So he's taken to it like a duck to water. I do think I don't often follow trends in FPL. I try and force myself not to do what everyone else is doing. But I do think 8 million for Villa. We saw what Watkins did for Villa. He's a better player, I think, than Watkins. I think he's got goals written all over him. I know the one reservation I've got is Grealish. Him not being there, how does that affect it? But I think he's a lock. I do think he's a lock for this time being.
I think, for these first 3 game weeks, I mean, they've got Watford, they've got, Newcastle, and then they've got Brentford. So they've got 2 promoted teams in their first 3 game weeks. So we know Danny Ings always has an eye for goal. You'd like his chances that he's going to kick a goal or 2 in at least, one of these game weeks. So, no, it's a very good pick. And yeah, as you said, his ownership has jumped up. I think pre-Villa transfer, I think his ownership was only like 4% or 5% or something. I don't think very many teams had him. And then all of a sudden, now that he's gone to Villa, and especially with that goal kicked in their most recent preseason game, it's jumped up to 30%. So I think, the move to Villa, the good fixtures, I think it's a no-brainer. I think you got to take a punt on it, just see what happens. And if it works out, you keep him. If it doesn't, he's at a price point where you can move around it. So, no,
yeah, and I think if you go back to like the 2019-2020 season, 22 goals. He had 12 last year, but 22 goals. Yeah, and that was probably when he was playing for a side that was kind of where Villa are now as well. Like last year, I think that's more of a reflection of Southampton, but the year before, they were really progressive. So if you get the ball in the right places for Danny Ings, you get the results. So I think potentially you've got to look at that. He's a guy that can go big.
I mean, look, they've lost Grealish, which is obviously, that's a massive loss. I mean, Grealish was, everything went through Grealish last season. But I mean, I think when you look at their transfer window this year, I mean, they've got Ings, obviously. They've just gotten Leon Bailey from Leverkusen, and he's another awesome talent that's someone to keep an eye out on as well. They've got Emi Buendia, who, in his previous year with Norwich in the Premier League, he created the 3rd most chances, like in the entire Premier League. It's just a shame that he didn't really have anyone to finish off those goals for him. So I think if guys like that can get Danny Ings into good positions, I think Danny Ings is a pretty good bet to finish them off. So yeah, it'll be a very interesting watch.
I'm with you, and I mean, there's reports as well. Watkins has suffered an injury, so he is 50-50 evidently for game week 1. And like you say, Buendia as well, 2 goal assists in 2 games. So, I mean, he's definitely as well someone that is looking to live up to Grealish's loss. So, interesting times. You've also got Ashley Young there. No one's talking about Ashley Young at Villa. And we saw what he did at Inter as well. He really gets in them positions to create. So, they've got a lot of creativity there. And no Watkins, he may thrive.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, no, big fan of that Ings pick, Dan. It's one that could definitely get a lot of managers off to a good start. That's for sure.
Yeah, it's definitely not an imaginative pick. Let's say that. I haven't
Yeah.
thought outside the box too hard. But then we do go to Norwich and Liverpool, and we've got a big team with a not big team. So always good these fixtures because Liverpool would be a team I'd imagine a lot of people have looked at their fixtures, particularly this first one, and thought there's attacking chances here, isn't there? So who have you picked for Norwich?
I think for Norwich, I think now that especially because they've lost Emi Buendia, there's one guy in particular that a lot of things are going to go through this year, and that's the Pookie party, Big Timu Pookie.
Yeah.
Last season he had a splendid championship, and even the season before when Norwich were in the Premier League, he got off to a really good start. He actually kicked a goal against Liverpool in the very first game of the season when Norwich played them. So I mean, there's always a potential for that to happen again. He's only had the one goal this preseason, but I mean, don't forget he was playing for Finland in the Euros as well. Probably, as I said, didn't get the returns that he wanted in the Euros, but we've known from previous experience what Pookie can do. He gets off to a really good start in the season. He's a real explosive sort of player goals wise, and there's always potential there for a goal. While he's out on the field, he's just that sort of player that can make something out of nothing happen. So I'm going to be watching Timu Pukki, and at 6.0 million in the forward line, he's at a price range where when Norwich's fixtures start to turn good after their horror run of stretch very early on, I think a lot of people are going to get on the Pukki party.
I agree with you 100%. I think we saw as well he did it in the Premier League. So that start to the year, like you say, when he was in the Premier League, I remember seeing him in every FPL side. If you play FIFA as well, he had a few special cards, and just about everyone had him. So we know he's got it. And like you say, with the ounce they've got, you think he's going to be back in favour and he's going to be a lot more primary used. So I think it's a no-brainer, and he presents value as well because Premier League experience, I think, is a huge one. I always say it's a huge one to me if they can do it in the Premier League, and we know that he's got reputation, he's done it. So definitely someone I'd look at as well. Definitely someone I think is a worthy guy in someone's team.
Absolutely, no, he's always good fun. I remember when he went on that little stretch where he was just kicking goal after goal, and the whole Pookie party, all that sort of stuff was starting. It was always good banter. It was always good fun. So
He's a good
I
full-time
think
player.
it's going to be real interesting to get him in again if he starts the season off really well.
Yeah, definitely someone that you'll look out for. I mean, Liverpool, I was spoilt for choice, really, because any of their starting 11, I think, are decent fantasy footballers, really. This was basically, and this is probably the first time I'm going to contradict myself. I panned this guy in the first year, and miraculously, he's back in favour. Sadio Mane, 3 goals, 1 assist in pre-season. This guy is playing good football. And I've got shades of that 2018 year and that 2019 year, 22 goals in 18, and 2019, 18 goals, 10 in their Premier League title winning year. And he's playing back to that way. He's really taking the game on again. Looks like he's having a lot of fun out there as well. So, yeah, unfortunately, I'm going to suggest Sadio Mane after saying stay away from him. 12 million. He's an expensive option, but 4.4% of people own him. So he's a point of difference. And really, it's going to be Salah or Mane, isn't it? People are going to throw a dart probably when you're looking at a primo from that team. And everyone's backed the Salah bus. Mane
No.
could be the bus.
Mane could definitely be the man, and as you said, it's more likely going to be one or the other. It's either going to be Salah or Mane most of the time. And the thing with Mane is he got in really good positions last year. He just probably didn't finish off as well as we've been accustomed to, and as well as he would have hoped to. But I mean, his preseason form has been unbelievable, and he's had the luxury of not having the Euros. A big Euros competition or any sort of that competition. During this off season, so he's been able to train consistently. He's and the work that he's put in this preseason has clearly clearly coming to fruition with after these preseason games. So I think even though he's 12 million, if he starts starting better over what Salah does, I think a lot of people might be making that move from Salah to Mane pretty quickly, because he definitely has the potential to catch fire pretty quickly, and we've seen that before in previous seasons. So yeah, no, he's I know you might have been contradicting yourself, Dan, but he's definitely a player to look out for.
Definitely, yeah, no. I just think that preseason form, if he's right, and I also think when you take in what teams have him in their team, that point of difference could get you in the money places. Do you know what I mean? That's the kind of thing when it's so the gap's massive. If he starts well and he finds that 2019 form, 2018 form, even like he's gonna be a jet. He's gonna be a jet. And like you say, it's always one or the other. So if he has a big year and Salah doesn't, with the ownage percentage, you laugh him.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
So I mean, that's it. Let's hope we're right. Let's hope I'm right, because I've backed him in all of a sudden. And then we go to the north of England. It's always a good place to be. Opening round, Newcastle. They entertain the Hammers. And who have you spot at Newcastle? Probably one of them teams as well. But it's hard to pinpoint what Newcastle will do.
Yeah, I mean Newcastle. They've obviously had a bit of a change this off season. A lot of people aren't knowing what to expect from Newcastle this season. There's potential there that they could be a top, or I mean not a top team, a mid-table team. But then there's also the potential for them to be a relegation team. But I mean, they're still here in the Premier League. They've got another season. Anything can happen. And I think the one I'm looking out for, particularly in game week 1, is Callum Wilson. A lot of Newcastle's attack and a lot of Newcastle's play is going to go through Callum Wilson, and we saw that last season. He was injured a bit. He had a few different injuries over the course of the season, but when he did play, I mean, you wouldn't expect it from Newcastle, but he'd always pop up with a goal or some sort of a return. He's only had the one goal and the one assist during the preseason period, but I mean, he's a proven Premier League scorer. He's proven in the Premier League. We know what to expect from Callum Wilson. He takes penalties. So if you're picking a Newcastle striker at 7.5 million, you got to take the punt on Callum Wilson, because he could be the one that kickstarts everything for the Magpies.
No, I agree. I mean, Callum Wilson as well. I mean, he's deadly, isn't he, in front of goal as well? I think that's a huge one for me. He knows where the onion bag is. He knows how to score goals. He's a top footballer as well. So if they're going to stay up or they're going to be relegated, he's going to score regardless, isn't he?
He is, and you'd think that he's probably going to play a really big part in if they do stay up or if they get relegated. So I don't want to put that sort of pressure on Callum Wilson, but it sort of feels like there's a lot riding on his shoulders, because he is the main attacking threat for that team. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see what happens.
It'll be interesting. I think he was one of them players as well that I think has constantly rotated in my team.
And I forgot to mention as well with Callum Wilson, they're playing West Ham first up, and Callum Wilson has a ridiculous record against West Ham. He always seems to score against West Ham and loves playing against them. So if you believe in past stats and believe in past records and all that, I think you got to start with Callum Wilson, because he'll probably pop up for a goal or two, knowing his record against West Ham.
Oh, no, I couldn't agree more. He's definitely someone that if you're looking at someone that's decent value, because his value is, I think, impeccable. I think his value for what he's returned. But like you say, he does play a few teams as well that he's got good scoring record. He's got great Premier League pedigree as well, hasn't he? He's been in the Premier League for what feels like an eternity as well. So definitely someone I think is a great shout of what you're saying. So no, I agree with you. The guy I picked for West Ham, and I think if he's not in your team, you've got to ask yourself, why is he not in my team? Because I think he's an absolute superstar. And that is none other than Mr. Benrahma, Saeed Benrahma. His preseason form, 2 goals, 3 assists. He's top 5 scorers who have played per game in the preseason as well. 6 million as a midfielder. He's going to live in that West Ham midfield creating stuff. 4.6% of people as well have actually got him in their team, which I think is ludicrous as well. I think it's absolutely crazy.
It's interesting. I think that 4.6% has literally started in the last 2 days. It's been an unbelievable rise for Ben Rama, and the stats don't lie. He's had a great preseason. And at 6.0 million, you talk about how much you love a value pick. I mean, West Ham's fixtures are pretty decent to start, and if he gets good game time and kicks off the season well, he could definitely be a very good value pick.
Yeah, he's definitely one of them people I'm looking at as well in the terms of he reminds me very much of Adel Tarabat. The ability
from QPR,
yeah. The ability to turn a game, turn a game from just literally next to nothing. So he's definitely someone that I think he presents a lot of value as well for the price. 6 million, not many people will score when you're 6 million.
I mean, and that's 6.0 million price range. I think if you are going to spend there, it's worth taking a punt on someone. So, we've already talked about Harrison, there's Ismail Assar, now you've got Ben Rama as well. I think that's a real price point where you can take a punt, see how it goes. If it works, you laugh. And if it doesn't work, well, you just move from it and you move on. But yeah, no, it's definitely worth the punt. And I think a lot of people have definitely gone on the Ben Rama train over the last couple of days. And I think it's going to keep growing up until that deadline hits.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I mean, it does present a risk. Like, I would admit, it is a huge risk because not many people are doing it. But I've got a good feeling about him, and I think when you look at the way West Ham play, David Moyes as well, he asks a lot of his midfielders. A lot of work comes through the midfield. I think he is an absolute bargain buy as well for what the return is, and his preseason form does say to me he's good. He's good value.
Man, what's FPL without a risk? Seriously, you're not playing FPL right if you're not taking risks. So it's worth it.
If you're not taking a huge risk, I agree with you. You are not doing it right. And we finish with probably, you could argue, the tie of the round, couldn't you? And that is Spurs versus City. So who did you take a look at Spurs that you're backing in this week?
I think if there's one man that's going to keep Spurs in this game, given that Harry Kane is likely not to play, it's Son Heung-min from Tottenham. Now, we saw the form that he was in last season and how ridiculous he was. And he's just continued on that ridiculous form in this preseason. 3 goals and 4 assists in his preseason matches. And he's just a guy that, he's 10 million in the midfield. So it is a little bit to spend, but he's at a point where, if Harry Kane does get transferred to City, he's going to be the main man there, and he's going to be the one for the assists. He's going to be the main one for the goals. And I think, if you're going to pick someone from Tottenham, he's got to be the one you pick. And I know he's a bit pricey at 10 million, but I find it hard to go without him. He's already in, I think, almost 22% of teams now as well. So, that preseason record, he didn't play in the Euros. I mean, obviously because he's not European, but he hasn't had that, big tournament action during this preseason. He's been training hard, and it seems to be working. And he's a guy that could really kick the season off really well, because after City, Tottenham's fixtures aren't too bad for the next few weeks. So I think if you can just get past the City fixture, you could be in line for some serious rewards from game week 2 onwards.
No, I agree with you. I think he's an elite mercurial talent as well. And I think he's going to be one of them players that if Kane stays as well, he's really going to benefit from that. But I also think he's one of them players that if Kane leaves, he will also benefit, because then he's going to get a lot more goal scoring attempts. So I think he's going to be someone that I'll definitely be looking at. Yeah. With Man City, spoiled for choice, but 3 goals, 2 assists. The legend that is Riyad Mahrez. I think this guy's got a lot of job security as well. I know that might be crazy, but just watching the Community Shield, I think he's going to be someone that is really going to get a lot of expectation from Pep. And I think he offers something that not a lot of that list does as well. I think when you look at that squad, I think he's a point of difference. 9 million is a bargain for a guy that returns as much as he does as well. And 7.4% of people own him. He's definitely someone that I think isn't as risky as some of the others in the rotation, because I think of the way he plays the game, he recovers and plays the next week anyway. So I think he's exciting. And I think with the Grealish, it probably helps him, because I think Grealish will be more of a rotation risk to Sterling. I think the way that they work, cutting inside and really trying to be that guy who's playing it into the box, I would say that that's probably where Grealish does. And I think Mahrez does something totally different. So I like him at 9 million.
I think he's a great pick at 9 million too, especially to start the season. And you think of a lot of the guys that have had all the Euros action at Man City. I think Mahrez is in line to start off at least the first games, the 3 game weeks, anyways. Starting on, and you look at their fixtures, they're not too bad. There's definite potential there, and we know how much he can return. We know how easily he can return as well, and do it even in limited time. So. I think Mahrez at 9 million is an absolutely fantastic pick. Whether you keep him after 3 game weeks is to be seen, because we know what Pep Roulette can be like with his rotations and all that. So I think that's something you got to have in the back of your mind. But I think for the first 3 game weeks, anyways, I think he's definitely one you got to pick. And you're always looking for a Man City attacker, because we know how attacking Pep loves to be and how much they love to keep possession. And in the first 3 game weeks, Mahrez could be the one that gets them going. So, I like it, Dan.
Oh, well, I mean, we've talked about who we're watching, but has anyone stuck by what they've said? Tell us about your team, Alex. Take us through what you're at this stage, because I know we both love a tinker. At this stage, what is game week 1 looking like?
Oh, mate, if we go back 2 weeks ago when we did our video, my team looks almost completely different to what it did. But as I said, I love a tinker. I love trying different things and seeing if it works. There's no doubt before the deadline hits that more changes could be coming. But at the moment, this is the team I'm sticking with, and I'm actually not too, I'm actually don't mind it too much. So I've got Sanchez in goal. As we've spoken about, I think it's a no-brainer. I've got Luca Dean, I've got Luke Shaw, and I've gone with Tsimikas from Liverpool. Now, I know a lot of people have Alexander Arnold, which is obviously the main thing. He's their attacking threat in defence, but I think Tsimikas, now that with the injury to Robertson, Tsimikas is a 4.0 defender, and I think anytime you can find a 4.0 defender, a Liverpool defender, I might add, that's likely going to play, if for the first 3 or 4 game weeks, anyways. I think it's just way too hard to go past, and I could be the one that gets the standard, Alexander Arnold and all that, but I thought, no, I'm going to go the 4.0, the 4 mil defender in Liverpool, and spend my money elsewhere. So I'm playing a 3-4-3, and that's my back 3 that I'm sticking with at the moment. We'll see what happens later on down the track, but for now, I'm liking where that sits. In the midfield, I've got Bruno and Salah. I think that's the pretty stock standard midfield duo. A lot of potential there. And then this is where I've gone different from my last draft. I've got Son in there, and I've got Son in there because of his fantastic preseason form. He looks on point. He obviously, with Harry Kane out of the team at the moment, he's the one that's playing up front and up forward, and he's thriving in it big time. So I think if he can get off to a really, really good start, I think that could definitely be a nice pick for me. And I've also stuck with James Maddison. Again, I for some reason I've tried it with Harvey Barnes and all that, and I just can't move away from Maddison in that 7.0 bracket. I think a lot of the play goes through Maddison at Leicester, and as good as Harvey Barnes and Vardy and all those sort of guys are, I love James Maddison, and I think he's a really, really solid footballer. So he stays in my team. And then up front, I've got Danny Ings. Again, Villa's fixtures, the move to Villa's helped him. 3 great fixtures to start. He could be due for or not due. He could score a couple of goals there. So I'm liking that. I've got Mikel Antonio from West Ham. Again, up front, he's the talisman. He's been in some pretty good form this preseason as well. So I'm expecting him to get off to a pretty good start this season. And lastly, I've gone with Brentford's Ivan Toney. I think he's at 6.5. He could definitely be some serious value. And if we listen to all the press conferences and all that, and if they're anything to go by, Brentford are going to come out swinging. They're going to come out attacking. They're going to go in there with no fear, like what we saw with Leeds last year. And we could see some serious returns from Ivan Toney. So I think it's worth the punt. It's worth the pick. And that's most likely the team I'm going to stick with heading into game week 1.
No, I love it. I think it's a solid team. I mean, if you go back to the previous video as well, my team has changed a little bit. There's still some of the stalwarts. So Sanchez in goal. I think that's a no-brainer. I think we're both on that train. I've gone Luke Shaw. I've gone Big Lucas from Everton as well, and I've gone TAA here. I've done it. I've bit the bullet. My back three is. I think that's a safe bet. I think particularly the opening fixtures for Liverpool. I understand where you've gone as well. I think it's great value. It gives you options elsewhere. As you can see, you've gone mental in your midfield. But I'm going to back TAA in for one more year. He's stung me a few times, but I've come back for thirds at this stage. My midfield four, I went the Sadio Mane train. I really do feel that Sadio Mane is going to be fine. I think I have another draft as well. I've looked at Mahrez, but for this stage, I'm sticking in with Sadio Mane. I know most people have gone the old Mo Salah and combination with Fernandes, but I'm going to back Mane in. I think just his preseason form has impressed me. Fernandes next to him. I've gone Benrahma and Zaha, though, as my points of difference. I think Benrahma's opening fixtures, Newcastle, Leicester and Palace, real good scoring potentials for him. So I think for his value, it could be a good idea. And Zaha, he's got the difficult start with Chelsea, but it gets a little bit easy for him after that as well. So he's got Brentford and West Ham United. So I'm hoping he can creep up with the goal there against Chelsea, but Brentford and West Ham, I'll be hoping. And then my front three, I've got a surprise for some. Gone Danny Ings, I've gone Ivan Toney, same reasons as you. Present great value. Toney's goal scoring record is amazing. And Ings, Watford, Newcastle and Brentford, you'd expect him to bag. Martial, though, is the surprise. I haven't picked Martial probably since 2018. So it's nice to see the little Frenchman there. But I've got reasoning behind it. Cavani out, Rashford out. I don't think Solskjaer will take a punt on Greenwood so early. I think he'll go with the backing of a tried and tested, one of the best finishers for me in the Premier League as well. And I think Leeds, Southampton and Wolves, there's goals there. And I think at the price as well, the price factor sold it. 8 million. And this is a guy that has scored big goals and got the numbers with probably the best providers he's ever had. He sold himself to me. And I think first 4 weeks, I think it's a no-brainer.
I think there's definite opportunity there for Martial to fire, and Rashford being out and Cavani being out, as you said, I don't know if they'll go with a tried and tested. They'll go with what they know, and Martial's the man that they know, and on his day he can finish with the best of them, with the best of the strikers in the world. So I think at 8 million, mate, if he gets off to a brilliant start, you're laughing there because. I don't think there'll be many that will be wanting to pick Martial. That's for sure.
Well, I mean, hardly anyone has. Interesting enough, 1.5% at the moment.
Unbelievable.
So, I mean, that's one thing that always attracts me. I always look for over 30% because that kind of says the risk reward if it goes wrong is pretty good. But I always think if you've got less than 5% as well, and you've got a gut. That could be a huge win for you. That could be a huge win. I just think first 4 fixtures, it's set up for Martial, isn't it? And I think if he gets if he gets 3 goals, four fixtures, I reckon he might displace Cavani as well. And I think they might run with him as the starter and Cavani the option as the 20 minutes to go sub. So I just think it's set up, and I reckon he's got his career to play for at United as well. So 4 weeks to save your career could happen.
Nah, mate, I love it. I love how you've decided to go with a lot of the differential picks. It's actually amazing. And I tell you what, if they get off to a good start, you're going to be absolutely laughing because you've already started with them, and everyone else is going to be chirping in to try and or trading in to try and actually get these guys where you're there. So the differentials is what can separate you from the pack and help you actually move up the ranks. So. I love it, Dan, and I'm with you there on Martial. I probably won't pick him myself to start. I'll be interested to see what he does early on, but if he definitely starts off really well, he could be another one I'll be looking to get in pretty quickly, given the fact that Rashford and Cavani are out for a little bit.
As my old man used to say, the difference between being a hero and an idiot is the result. Well, we're going to find out with Martial against Leeds. About 2 o'clock in the early hours of the morning, we'll know if that was a great pick or it was a disaster pick. So I'll be watching that game with a little bit of intrigue.
No, it's. I mean, as a Man United supporter, I'm going to be watching that game with immense intrigue, given the fact that I'm going to be watching for FPL players, but obviously I'm going to be watching because I support the team, and we'll definitely be hoping they beat the old rivals. So. Yeah, no, we're set for a really good weekend. I can't wait. Been waiting for it for a really, really long time, and it's good to see the Premier League back. And we'll find out next week how our teams have gone exactly.
Well, it'll be interesting when we do the review next week to see if the teams we've just shown you now were the teams come opening kickoff that actually made it. I mean, it'll be very interesting to see because both of us have changed them quite a bit in the last 24 hours. So. We'll be back next week with the full review. We'll see as well how our big calls went. And good luck and enjoy Fantasy Week.
Good luck, everyone. Let's kick it off in the right way.